What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here with the brand new Awesemo Fantasy Football YouTube channel. Today, we are going to continue our discussion with Dynasty Wide Receivers. We're going through the top 12 in descending order, number 12 to number 1, giving you everything you need to know about the position. But before we get started, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. But let's get into it, starting right away with Dynasty Wide Receiver number 12. We'll kick this off with Carolina's DJ Moore. He is coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Going into his fourth season in the NFL, he is still just 24 years old. He has 2 years left on the deal, free agent in 2023. But DJ Moore, even last year with Robbie Anderson entering the offense, still accounted for 66 receptions for 1,193 yards and 4 scores. It was a 24.5% target share, 31% of the air yards used very much downfield. And a stat we'll reference a lot in the show is yards per route run, an efficiency metric which has been highly predictive of future success and efficiency at the position. He ranked 11th. As far as moving forward, few concerns with Carolina. They're very much still in a rebuild, but they have the coaching staff they want. Joe Brady is the architect of the offense. He coordinated the LSU offense to their historic 2019 season. Last year, he coaxed career years out of Teddy Bridgewater, 2 1,000-yard receivers in Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. There's just a lot to like about the offense. Now, they move on from Bridgewater. They go to Darnold, the former number 3 overall pick. At the very least, this should be a wash, if not an improvement. In worst case scenario, if Darnold falls flat on his face, Carolina is likely picking near the top of the draft where they secure their quarterback of the future. So DJ Moore at just 24 years old, definitely not hitting the panic button after 2 1,000-yard seasons. He checks in as the dynasty receiver number 12. Number 11, we have New Orleans Saints receiver Michael Thomas. Entering his 6th season, he is 28 years old, so a little bit older here. But Michael Thomas is coming off that injury-riddled 2020 campaign. He had just 438 receiving yards on 40 receptions. After the 2019 season, that was a big disappointment. But when we look at the market share metrics, the 28% target share was still 4th in the NFL in healthy games. He had 43.5% of the air yards. Michael Thomas still very involved, even when he was on the field. Now, again, 2019 was historic. 2020 was a disappointment. In 2019, he has 1,725 yards at 34.5% target share. There's a potential for him to get back to those numbers. Again, he averaged 11.6 targets per game in 2019. Now, New Orleans loses Emmanuel Sanders. They lose Jared Cook. That's 98 vacated targets. They didn't add anybody in free agency or the draft of consequence, meaning Thomas should operate near that 30% market share of targets. They also lose Drew Brees, which is a downgrade. They go to Jameis Winston. Hopefully, he will battle Taysom Hill. When Taysom Hill played, the Saints' pass rate did drop 5%, so we very much want Winston for Thomas. But the market share should be high enough to offset some of these concerns. And Thomas is under contract for the next 4 years, free agent in 2025. Again, the market share is just so high that even at 28.3 years old, he's somebody still in the top 12 dynasty receivers. Moving to number 10, we have a similar player as far as age and contract status in DeAndre Hopkins. Entering his 9th season, he is 29 years old. 2nd season now with the Arizona Cardinals. But like Michael Thomas, he's under contract for the next 4 years. He'll be a free agent in 2025. And positively, Hopkins slid right into the Arizona offense just seamlessly. In his first season with the Cardinals, he had 115 receptions, 1,407 yards, and 6 scores. His 29.5% target share was 2nd in the NFL, averaged 10 targets per game. And positively, he gets to play with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray again. Cliff Kingsbury, as a play caller, likes to run 4 wide receiver sets at the highest rate in the NFL, but he hasn't always had the personnel to get this done. He now has the quarterback in place in Murray. They've added more receivers. They have Christian Kirk, but they draft Rondale Moore. They sign A.J. Green. Hopefully he has something left in the tank. That should allow them to operate with tempo and that pass-friendly offense that Cliff Kingsbury is known for. They also bolster the offensive line with a trade for Rodney Hudson. So there's a lot to like about this Arizona offense, and they appear to be ascending in the NFL. So Hopkins at 29 years old, he still checks in as the dynasty wide receiver number 10. Number 9 is Green Bay's Davante Adams, very similar to Thomas and Hopkins in a number of ways. He's entering his 8th season, 28.5 years old, 6'1", 215 pounds, coming off a historic season where he accounted for 115 receptions, 1,374 yards, all in 14 games. His 34.1% target share led the NFL. 38.5% of the air yards, averaged 10.5 targets per game. And yards per route run, he was first in the NFL. The main difference with Adams is he'll be a free agent after this year, which may not necessarily be a bad thing. The concern with Adams immediately is the status of Aaron Rodgers. Of course, Aaron Rodgers led this team to number 1 in points per game. It allowed Adams to score 18 touchdowns and just rack up an incredibly efficient season. But if they move to Jordan Love, how much of that efficiency declines for Adams? Luckily, if Rodgers decides to move on, Adams can as well after this season, assuming he's not franchise tagged. That at least gives him a chance for a fresh start. Again, 28 and a half years old. And positively, the Green Bay Packers really didn't add much competition. Allen Lazard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Amari Rodgers in the third round. If Rodgers sits out this year, Adams still should be a target magnet. If Rodgers plays, you get the efficiency along with it. He still checks in as a top 10 dynasty wide receiver. Number 8 is Atlanta's Calvin Ridley, ascending on this list. Entering his 4th season, he's 26 and a half years old. He entered the NFL at an advanced age for the receiver position, but he's had no problem translating his collegiate production to the NFL. He has 2 years left on that deal. He'll be a free agent in 2023. But last year, he caught 90 balls for 1,374 yards. That was on a 25% target share, 41.5% of the air yards, 9.5 targets per game, and he ranked 7th in yards per route run. Now, Atlanta's also undergoing some changes. They changed coaching staffs, bring in Arthur Smith from Tennessee. He was the architect of that offense that coaxed career years out of Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith, revitalized Ryan Tannehill's career. And now he moves over to Atlanta that still has Matt Ryan, but loses Julio Jones. And we have a sample of Ridley without Jones last year. Targets rose, efficiency rose. That's all positive for Ridley here. Now, some of that concern is offset by the drafting of Kyle Pitts, but they play different positions. Ridley still should operate as the alpha within this offense. And we know targets above all else drive fantasy production. Ridley should see those not only this year, but into the future. Again, 2 years left on the deal with Atlanta, potential to move on after that, still just 26 and a half years old. Ridley is dynasty wide receiver number 8. Number 7, our first and only rookie on this list. We have Cincinnati first-round pick Ja'Marr Chase, 21 years old. Ja'Marr Chase is 6'1", 191 pounds. He did not play in 2020, opted out due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But when we look back to his sophomore season in 2019, we're talking about a historic campaign. 84 receptions, 1,780 yards, and 20 scores in a Biletnikoff winning season. Biletnikoff goes to the number 1 wide receiver in college football. More impressively, he put up those numbers playing alongside Justin Jefferson, who we just saw have a historic rookie season with the Vikings. Target share was about 22%, very efficient yards per route run. There's just not enough good things to say about Jefferson as a prospect. So how does he fit into the offense long term? Zach Taylor, he'll keep calling the plays. He previously coached with Sean McVay, so very much of that coaching lineage. But we're going to see them be pass heavy. We're going to see them run with tempo. And they return Joe Burrow from his severe knee injury suffered in week 11 last year. So a lot to like about Chase moving forward. There is competition in T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, both under contract for the next couple of years. But Ja'Marr Chase is still just 21 years old. There's a very real chance he ends up being the number 1 dynasty asset at some point in his career. So seeing him check in as the wide receiver 7 right now says a lot. He very much deserves to be in the top 10 of our dynasty rankings. Number 6, Buffalo's Stefon Diggs. He's entering his 7th season, 27 and a half years old, and he has only ascended throughout his career after coming out of the draft as a 5th round pick. Now, in his first season with Buffalo, after they traded a first rounder for him, he puts up 127 receptions, 1,535 yards, and 8 scores on 166 targets last year. Targets, receiving yards, receptions, led the NFL in all of those categories. 29.3% target share, was 3rd, 34% of the air yards, averaged 10.4 targets per game. And positively, Stefon Diggs is under contract for the next 3 years in an offense which projects to be near the top of the NFL in efficiency. Last year, they were 3rd in points per game. They returned their entire coaching staff as far as players that'll have their hands on Diggs on the offense and head coach overall. And they returned their entire offensive line. In the receiving game, they do lose John Brown. They bring in Emmanuel Sanders to offset some of that, but Sanders at 34 years old, he's not somebody who's going to take away targets from Diggs. With all the pieces in place, there's a very real expectation that Diggs could lead the NFL in targets again this year. While Beasley and Sanders and Gabe Davis are there to provide complementary options, nobody is going to question Diggs' alpha status within the offense. With Buffalo projected for 11 wins, Josh Allen still under contract, there's a lot to like about the 27 and a half years old in Dynasty moving forward. Going to number 5, Dallas's CeeDee Lamb, second season in the NFL, 22 years old. CeeDee Lamb is 6'2", 198 pounds. He's going into his second season, and because he was a first-round pick, he could be a free agent in 2024 or 2025, depending on the status of his rookie year option. But in his first year with Dallas, he accounts for 74 catches, 935 yards, and 5 scores. An 18% target share and 23% air yard share. He accounted for all that while playing alongside Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, with Dak Prescott hurt and most of the offensive line hurt. So an efficient season from CeeDee Lamb immediately. We like to see this, and potentially moving forward, we have an elite dynasty weapon. Kellen Moore's back as offensive coordinator. When we had all those pieces healthy, Dak, the offensive line, this team was scoring over 30 points a game, averaging over 300 passing yards in one of the most explosive offenses in football. Now, CeeDee Lamb, he does have a path to wide receiver 1 status basically after this year. Michael Gallup will be a free agent. There's an out in Amari Cooper's contract after this year. He can be cut for $6 million. Otherwise, he's a free agent in 2025. I don't think they lose both, but there is a chance they lose one or the other, opening additional targets for CeeDee Lamb after this year. And again, this is a player that nearly crested 1,000 yards as a rookie in an offense without their starting quarterback and 3 marquee starting offensive linemen. A lot to like about Lamb at 22 years old. He is dynasty wide receiver number 5, and there's a very real case for him to be as high as the top 3. Wide receiver 4 is Tyreek Hill, 6th season in the NFL, 27.3 years old. He has 2 years left on his deal with the Chiefs, free agent in 2023, but we've seen nothing but production from Hill throughout the recent seasons. Last year puts up 87 catches, 1,276 yards, 15 scores. He had a 23% target share and 36% air yard share. Impressively, Tyreek's role changed a bit throughout the season. Now, he averaged 9.0 targets per game throughout, but we saw the targets consolidate to Kelsey and Hill down the stretch. Hill actually averaged 11.2 in the final 10 games of the year. He was 12th in yards per route run. Now, his position with the Chiefs, we mainly like this because he'll be attached to Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy. They were 5th in pass rate, 8th in plays per game, 6th in points per game. The main issue here is he's always going to play alongside Travis Kelsey, so you're never going to see that 30% target share. But positively, with the Chiefs playing pass-heavy football with tempo and Patrick Mahomes just driving incredible efficiency, Tyreek Hill can still stay a top 5 dynasty wide receiver. And he's only 27 years old. Still a lot of tread left on these tires. That's why Tyreek Hill comes in as the dynasty wide receiver number 4. Number 3, we have Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings, 22 and a half years old, entering his second season. He is 6'1", 202 pounds. Similar to CeeDee Lamb, he will be a free agent in either 2024 or 2025, depending on his rookie year option as a first rounder. He put up a historic season, 88 receptions, 1,400 yards, and 7 scores, basically in 14 games. He was active for 16, but really didn't see the field much in weeks 1 and week 2. So the 7.8 targets per game he averaged, that actually jumps to 8.5 when you exclude those first 2 games. Either way, his 25.8% target share was 9th in the NFL, 37% of the air yards, and he was 2nd in yards per route run, behind only Davante Adams. Now, this Minnesota team is interesting for receivers. Adam Thielen is under contract through 2025, but we have a run-heavy team here. They passed at the 27th highest rate in the NFL, 19th in plays per game. There's not exactly a lot of volume to go around. Fortunately, Minnesota's offense is so concentrated between Thielen and Jefferson that it still allowed him to put up that enormous 1,400-yard season. At just 22 and a half years old, Jefferson is somebody we want to invest in long-term. And if you can get your hands on him, there's a very real argument to be made that he should be dynasty wide receiver 2. Right now, he checks in at number 3, but a prospect we want long-term. Dynasty wide receiver number 2 is DK Metcalf, one of the freakiest athletes in the NFL. We're talking about a 6'4", 230-pound receiver entering his third season at 23 and a half years old. He has 2 years left on his deal, free agent in 2023, a player that accounted for 83 receptions, 1,303 yards, and 10 scores. It's a 24% target share, 39% air yard share, 8.1 targets per game, over 2 yards per route run that was inside the top 20. DK Metcalf has shown it all from an efficiency and athleticism perspective. The concerns with Metcalf are the run heaviness of the Seattle offense. We saw them embrace run-first approach down the stretch last year, but they move forward with a new offensive coordinator. They hire Shane Waldron. He's a former coordinator, pass game coordinator with the Rams, longtime Sean McVay disciple. So it'll be interesting to see how his new concepts mesh with the player personnel and Pete Carroll's desire to drive the run. But he'll play alongside Lockett. Lockett's not a free agent until 2026. That could cap some of his target upside. Again, just 24 targets last year. But Metcalf, very much a player in ascendance with Seattle. At the very least, we see a very efficient season out of Metcalf in that 24% target share, 39% air yard share. Keep him in play potentially till the end of his rookie contract, but still just 23 and a half years old. As one of the most explosive receivers in the NFL, he comes off the board as Dynasty wide receiver number 2. Number 1, funny enough, is DK Metcalf's former college teammate, A.J. Brown, also entering his third season. A.J. Brown is 23.9 years old, 6 feet, 226 pounds. Like DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, a second-round pick, so he is a free agent in 2023. Last year, he played in 14 games, accounted for 1,075 yards and 11 scores on a 26% target share. That was 7th in the NFL. Air yards, 35%, and he averaged 7.6 targets per game, but incredibly efficient. He was 3rd in yards per route run behind only Davante Adams and Justin Jefferson. He plays on a Titans offense, which also embraces the run, similar to the Vikings offense. They were 30th in pass rate, but they scored the 4th most points. Now, they move on from Arthur Smith as OC. He's now with Atlanta. They bring an in-house replacement, Todd Downing, but they keep most of their pieces in place, and they add Julio Jones, which should only add to the explosiveness of the offense. Now, Julio Jones, north of the age of 30, he's under contract through 2024, but there's an out after 2022. He can be cut for just $2 million in dead cap. And A.J. Brown, as the 24-year-old alpha receiver he is, there's just so much to like about him long-term. Again, 2 years left on this deal with Tannehill. Potential for a franchise tag after that or a change of scenery. But either way, he's shown the efficiency throughout his career to be very deserving of this wide receiver 1 status in Dynasty. Recapping the list, here is everybody we discussed today, from DJ Moore at 12 all the way through A.J. Brown at number 1. But if you like this content, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you would like to hear about, and of course, hit the notification bell. But that will do it for us at Awesemo.com. I am Matt Gajewski on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. Make sure you stick around for future videos and let us know what you'd like to hear about. We'll be bringing it to you all summer long. Thank you guys, and have a good one.